Hi, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I hope you all are enjoying this. If you're on the East Coast, rainy day. Uh, it's definitely been a rainy, gloomy day, but also very nice, relaxing and nice, if you want to put it that way. Hope you guys are doing well and staying safe. My name is Candice Reyes. I'm one of the founders of the Jazz Exchange, and I'll be your host tonight for the Exchange Live Sessions. If you are new to the Exchange Live Sessions, welcome. Thank you for tuning in. We do these every Wednesdays, and we have amazing special guests to come on. We ask them to just give us at least an hour and a half of their time. They're all busy. Even though they're at home, they're still busy, believe it or not. And so we're very, very honored to get a lot of these special guests and artists to join us and just have a conversation. So before we start, we just want to remind you all, please follow us. Please check out our website. You see our social media handles, and you can just find out what the Jazz Exchange is currently doing, what we're up to. It's always just best to kind of go into what, the website, social media, all that good stuff. Moving on, we just want to remind everybody with one of the programs that we do support and that we're continuing doing with the Jazz Exchange is the educational program. So the educational program is mainly a program that's happened already for 3 years. We're in partnership with Jazz House Kids, and we actually have students from our hometown. So originally from El Paso, Texas, and my husband's from Juarez, Chihuahua. And so that is the borderland. We get students from that area, which is almost like the West Coast, I guess you can say. And they come all the way to the East Coast, and we partner up with Melissa Walker and Christian McBride to bring students these opportunities to have them just experience jazz in the East Coast, experience fellow artists, musicians visiting from all over the world, literally in the summer workshops. So with this educational program, we've had the opportunity to have alumni students from our hometowns, which we're very proud of, just have that experience. And now 2 of our alumni from our second year are currently attending the new school and got a scholarship. So we're very, very proud of the work that we've been putting in and the work that they put in just to have these opportunities. So if you want to find out more, sponsor student, please go to our website and check out the educational program. So thank you to Jazz House Kids and S-Smart for their partnership. Also, as a reminder, we always, since the pandemic hit, we had the Jazz Exchange Relief Fund. That was the first thing we thought about, us being, my husband and I both being full-time musicians. We totally just thought of it out of our hearts and our thoughts of what are musicians going to do without unemployment. Some musicians who are still waiting for unemployment, who maybe can't even apply for unemployment. Just having those thoughts of musicians not being able to have any kind of source of funding. And there's been a lot of organizations out there as well who have been helping and supporting full-time musicians. So through our Jazz Exchange Relief Fund, we've also started our virtual jazz programs where you can find all our artists that we've supported through your funds and through your donations. We create these virtual jazz sessions, and that you can check out our YouTube. And those are all the musicians that we've hired, we've paid. We continue to give them creative opportunities to work and to just, even from the comfort of their home. And what the beauty of that is that we've been able to just reach to, musicians from all over the world. And it just sounds like they're all playing together, and putting this all together is just amazing. So if you want to continue to support, if you have the means, we do ask that you support and donate the Jazz Exchange Relief Fund. So as you all know, this month is Women's History Month, and we are so excited because this whole month we have some amazing women as our special guests. And just to refrain and recap on what Women's History Month is, it's really a month that offers an important opportunity for us to shine a light on extraordinary legacy of trailblazing American women and girls who have built, shaped, and improved our communities and nation. Throughout American history, women and girls have made vital contributions, often in the face of discrimination and undue hardship. Courageous women marched for and won the right to vote, campaigned against injustice, shattered countless barriers, and expanded the possibilities of American life. As we celebrate the contributions and progress of women and girls, we must also reflect on the extraordinary and unequal burdens they continue to bear today. During Women's History Month, let us honor the accomplished and visionary women who have helped build our communities, including those whose contributions, have not been adequately recognized and celebrated. So this is really focusing on some of these trailblazers, the doers, the achievers, the overdoers, the ones that work late at night behind the scenes that, are pushing for equality. And so today we have a very, very special guest that I'm very honored personally, and you all will be as well, to have her tonight. I've known her, based off of the work she's done. She's an amazing mentor and inspiration to a lot of young women. And just to kind of give you a little taste of our special guest, she is a New York-based music industry professional with an experience as a publicist, a radio host. So I better put up my chops here as a radio host, a promoter, a journalist, and a musician. She is the founder and president of Lydia Liebman Promotions, a leading PR agency based in New York City with additional operations in London. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring our special guest, Miss Lydia Liebman. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Yeah.
It's such an honor.
Thanks for having me. It's such a joy to be here with you. You've had some wonderful guests on your show this month. Venetia last week, she's my girl. So I'm always honored to be, in the company of such great people and great ladies.
Thank you. So Lydia, where are you tuning in live from right now?
I am tuning in from very rainy New York City. So yeah.
Beautiful. I know. Well, I'm in New Jersey, so I think we're close enough, and it's also raining over here. So agreed. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, first of all, I think thank you for being here, but also thank you for all the work that you've accomplished and keep doing for a lot of artists and for the music industry. I think this is a topic that I think is so important today, not only pre-COVID, but even today now with things changing and everything kind of happening and the music industry kind of shifting and moving in a different way. And so one of my biggest, things, we have a lot of great music and stuff we want to talk about today, was just how did your interest in the music industry even begin? Let's start from there.
Yeah, so I grew up in the Poconos in Pennsylvania, so about an hour and a half from New York City. And I'm from a very musical family. My parents are both musicians. My dad is Dave Liebman, the saxophonist, and, just no big deal.
Okay, wait, let's stop there. So if you all don't know who Dave Liebman is, a saxophonist who has played with Miles Davis, Chick Corea, rest in peace, Chick Corea, Alvin Jones, McCoy Tyner, amazing, multiple Grammy nominee and recipient of, just so many awards. So let's just pause there and remember that Dave Liebman is an amazing person we also respect. So yes.
He's probably tuning in. So
yay, hey, hi Dave.
So my mother's a musician as well, and has also had a lot of experience in the music industry doing different things. So I grew up in that environment. So it was kind of a no-brainer that I'd eventually get involved. But I did start as studying voice, and I studied, vocal jazz and theater stuff and all that. So I started on that end. Yeah, I started there. But when I started to attend college, I went to Boston. I was in Boston. I went to Emerson College and Berklee College of Music. Once I got to college, I sort of realized I really preferred being on the other side of things. And I started by getting involved in radio and doing all these other little things. And before I knew it, I found that I was much happier behind the scenes, and the industry stuff and the business stuff kind of attracted me a little bit more than the actual performance and artistic aspect. So it was kind of a no-brainer that eventually I get into music, but the way that I kind of got there was, different from what I expected originally. So here we are.
Just in a nutshell, right? I mean, first of all, that's awesome that you were a vocalist I mean, maybe, man, do you even have like recordings of some of you singing, or do you have
Yeah,
anything?
they're out there somewhere.
Oh man, we should have grabbed one for today.
That's
we
okay.
should have had one. Now we know you can look up Lydia, and I'd love to hear you. But I'm sure, just even the love and passion for music, is what inspired, like you said, inspired you to just continue on that
Yeah,
path of how you can support and be part of the music scene still.
sure.
So one of my other things is how or what is the definition that you would say a promoter and a publicist is?
Well, I think the proper definition is they're a liaison between the public and the media and the artist. They're kind of the intermediary between the artist and everything else. But these days, a publicist does so much more than that. And my job is really quite multifaceted because not only am I a publicist, but I'm also, the copywriter. I'm also doing,
Mm-hmm.
creative design. I'm doing, graphic design, and I'm also often a therapist. And I'm
Yeah.
dealing with quite a few, a lot of complicated things with artists. And so we are publicists by definition. Yes, that's what a publicist is, but uh, I particularly do a lot of different things kind of under that umbrella. But the general idea is to publicize and promote jazz and publicize and promote our artists and basically get it in front of as many people as possible. And the way that we do that is by communicating with the media primarily for, them to do placements and do things that will broaden the exposure of our artists. So that's kind of a short version of what we
And
do.
and and I mean, this is great because it's also for anybody who is a non-music or, in the music scene or not a musician or,
Yeah.
doesn't understand what that is. It's always good to know, what is, what the role of a publicist and a promoter is, because sometimes,
Yeah.
we just think, oh, nowadays, if you really think the trend, right, the promoter, oh, they just go on social media. Like, we don't think about the vast, like, depth of really what a
Yeah.
promoter does. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's good to know and to hear, what that really means in the music industry.
Yeah, and it's different too per genre. The jazz universe is really different than what it is. Oh my gosh, see, people have discovered the music now, and I'm getting texts from people that are finding me performing with my ex-boyfriend at a choir concert. Thank you, Svetlana. My ex for a
Yay!
reason. Lovely. Thank you, Svetlana. I wish I was still talking to him. I would ask him to take it down. Anyway. Anywho, yes. So it is I'm like probably so red right now. It's
You're fine. You're fine. You're beautiful.
I'm gonna put the light up. It's all dependent really on the genre, and
Right.
jazz is like a really kind of its own ecosystem, and it's kind of got its own universe. So what we do as publicists in this music is different from what like an indie publicist would do, or a publicist who's dealing with rock acts, or classical music. It's
Right.
all pretty really specific and different. But in jazz particularly, it is quite an interesting, it's an interesting little ecosystem we've got here.
And so just to kind of recap what you're saying is that, you're primarily a publicist and a promoter for jazz, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's mainly your focus. Have you worked outside of jazz, like maybe a little bit, or have you worked with artists
Yeah,
outside of that genre?
totally, because a lot of our artists are kind of on the cusp of jazz and then something. So for me, I call it like jazz plus, or anything
Yeah.
off of the
Yeah.
the jazz tree per se. So for instance, the Baylor Project is
Mm.
I've worked with them for many years, and they are definitely on the cusp of R&B, soul, and jazz. And like they just, are nominated for traditional R&B Grammy this year. They were also
Yeah.
nominated before. But they're jazz artists, but they're also, and then some. Same goes for artists like Lila Bialy. I
Mm.
work with Lila Bialy, and she's definitely on the cusp too. Tana Alexa is definitely on a traditional jazz artist. I mean, so we definitely like to branch out. the thing for me is that it really just does have to come from like the jazz tree in
Got
some
it.
form. So as much as I would like love to work maybe a, you know, an indie rock, soul, Gregorian chant, you
Gregorian
know,
chant. I
you
love
know,
that. Oh my
like
God.
like as much as I would love to work a project like that because it could be really interesting and maybe I would personally like it, I also do know like what my list and what my contacts like and what they gravitate towards. So I would probably have to say no, even if it's something I personally like. So
Right.
that's something I'm always kind of going back and forth and battling, like what I want to do and what I like to do versus what I know I can do a good job on.
And that's so important for anybody listening, especially musicians or artists, is even, knowing who your promoter and publicist are
Yeah.
and what their primary focus is on, right? What
Yeah.
genre they really push. If you look at the artists that are in their roster, and I mean, let me looking at your roster, I mean, your Lydia Liebman Productions and Promotions really has an impressive group of artists from like Lakeisha Benjamin, Tana Alexa, and most recent who has just passed away, and Mr. Ralph Peterson. I mean, our condolences to the family.
Yeah.
We definitely gave a highlight on his amazing music. And I mean, you've worked with so many great, you know, musicians and artists that, like you said, just already, what you just mentioned, knowing that you're focused on the branch of jazz music,
Yeah.
even if it goes into Latin jazz, even if it's kind of like a world music jazz kind of feel, really understanding who your promoter and what you do is focused on your artist.
Yeah, and I will add too, even within jazz, there are publicists that specialize in different things. I mean, I have colleagues that do really well with other types of music, and I have other colleagues, like I have, sometimes a lot of vocalists will come to me and want to work with us, and I'm really selective on what vocalists we work with, just because. And I do know, that I can readily recommend publicists that do really well with standards projects, for example. Or if I have someone come to me who wants to release something that's really out there and really avant-garde, and maybe it's a little bit too out for me, I can recommend another publicist who I think would do a good job. So,
That's
it
great.
really is, yeah, it's really important to kind of know what they specialize in and to do your research before reaching out, because everyone kind of specializes in different things.
That's great advice and great for people who are, just even thinking about, the starts of going and reaching out to someone like you who
Sure.
promote and publicize their music. So my other question is, why is a publicist and a promoter so important? Like, why would artists want to have a publicist and a promoter?
Well, the short answer is it is a full-time job. So when you're an artist and you're releasing music and doing artistic things, having to do the outreach and the PR side of it can be really daunting because it really is intense. I mean,
Yeah.
the material creation alone takes a lot of time, writing a press release, creating a one sheet, figuring out the narratives and the pitches that you want to go in with, and then knowing how to strategically communicate and how to follow up with critics and journalists, and how to stay on their case without being pushy, and how to be ask for things. And it's kind of like the art of communication is actually a lot more difficult, I think, than people realize. And it is especially difficult when you're dealing with people that are receiving tons of pitches. I mean, the inbox of an editor at any publication is going to be insane. I mean, they
Yeah.
get tons of emails a day. So, so from like a technical standpoint, it is another job. So you want to have someone to do that job who's not you. On the other hand, with that too, we are dealing with these writers and journalists pretty often. So I'm not going to say we have a direct line to them, because that's not true. We don't have
Right.
but we are in communication with them a lot. So they kind of, there are certain journalists that expect to get stuff from us. So they are used to getting emails, used to getting CDs in the mail. They're used to getting pitches from me. So maybe they're more inclined to answer or to cover it because it's coming from someone they've dealt with versus, coming from an artist just kind of plain without any type of warm up. And while some people love to deal with artists individually, and they love, getting, personalized notes from them in the mail, and that's great. On the other hand, they also don't want to tell an artist they don't like their project. And they're
Exactly.
less inclined to be honest, and they'll probably just not answer. At
Mm.
least with us, most of the time they'll tell us, yeah, I'm not really feeling this one, but I like this one. So it's up to us to break that to the artist, which, we will do. So there's that part of it too, where just like the communication line is a little bit more direct between a publicist and an editor and all of that. And then just, overall, it really just comes down to releasing music is hard. There's a lot of competition out there. And
Mm.
even just putting something out on your own, sure, like your friends, family, and fans maybe will buy it, but what about expanding beyond that bubble?
Exactly.
So that's really what a
Exactly.
publicist does. We're promoting it, getting it out there, and we're making sure that people know about it.
Now, let me ask you this. As far as the publicist and promoter, how is it when you work with an artist who is on, their own or who is working with an independent label versus a more, well-known corporate, I guess, label, you should say. Is there any difference with that as a publicist and promoter? Do you see any, difference with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's interesting because the bulk of my roster is independent artists or boutique labels.
What does that
So
mean? Sorry.
yeah, so I would say like, let me think how I can phrase this. So I don't want to offend anyone. I'll start it like this. So you have in one side, you've got like people that are self-releasing. So these are artists that are putting that on their own labels, because he commented. Jonathan Barber, for example, released his
He's
previous
tuning in
albums.
live tonight, just so you know. Hi,
Yeah,
Jonathan.
I see that he commented. Yeah, hi Jonathan. Jonathan's great. He released it on his label, Vision Ahead Music, and a lot of artists do that, where they are releasing it on their own. Then you have artists that are dealing with smaller labels that are, maybe boutique labels. I don't want to say smaller, but they're just not like the Blue Notes and Mac Avenues
Right.
of the world. They're maybe more like, like Origin Records or Whirlwind Recordings or Sunnyside, or these are like boutique labels that are
Got it.
super legit, have a great, great distribution. They're really good. But they're not necessarily like owned by a major subsidy like
Got it.
Blue Note or Verve or something like that. And then you have those that are like on Verve and Impulse or whatever, those big ones. So it really is all pretty spread out. And I will say that for independent artists, there is a challenge sometimes, because a label has a certain cachet. A label sometimes is taking out advertising. Labels have been doing this for a long time, so they have direct relationships too. So it can be a little bit harder for an independent artist to break in when they are doing it on their own, in comparison to a label that already has a history and they kind of have like a thing going. So for me, as a publicist, it can really vary. In some cases, it is more difficult to do things independently because you're dealing with just like much more against you. But on the other hand, working with a label could be hard too, because they might have their own way of doing things, and maybe they have like in-house publicity that we're augmenting, or they might have a different way of dealing with stuff, which can make it hard for us to do our jobs. So it's all really case by case.
Right.
Honestly.
And so from my understanding, based off what you just mentioned, do the publicists and promoters, like such as yourself, if working with an artist who is working with an independent label or just a startup label, is that I don't know if I want to say, is that easier for you? But how do you work with actual labels? Like, what is that? Like, communication, does it really restrict? I mean, I know you mentioned that earlier, like it really depends on the distribution, what they're doing prior, or what they've continued to do based off of their longevity being a label, what they already have repertoire artists. But what's the real focus between like you and the label as a promoter and publicist?
Yeah, it depends, because some labels are really hands-on and they're really engaged in the process, and others, like, they don't even, I don't even know if they know that I exist. It's really
Right.
It's interesting because I'm primarily hired most of the time by the artist. Now there are some labels I work with where I'm on retainer or special deals with them, where I deal with everything that they do. So Dot Time Records, for one, I do all of their stuff. I do the majority on Wool Gathering Records, which is out in Chicago. I do, and then I do like quite a bit for outside of music, but not everything, you know, so it's really kind of depends on what it is. And with some of them, like we're really hands-on and we're only dealing with the label. Like for instance, I recently started working with Cellar Music Group, which is Corey
Oh,
Weed's label,
cool. Yeah.
which is a great label, you know, and in that case, you know, I'm mostly dealing with them, with Corey and, you know, and Scott, who manages that label, rather than doing it with the artist directly because I'm hired by the label. But
Got
then
it.
when I'm hired by an artist, I'm dealing with the artist on the day to day. So it really depends.
And I guess last question just to end that topic
Yeah.
of that. Does it conflict if, like, for example, an artist is with the seller label but had gone to you like there's no
Yeah.
conflict of interest in that sense, right? Because once you're already, with seller
It gets good questions. It gets dicey. You know what? It does sometimes get dicey because sometimes, I'll have artists approach me before they've figured out their label situation and they've we figure out a plan and then they get a label down the line. Usually the label's cool, but if it's a label I'm already working with, then, sometimes I have to have like this awkward conversation about, because it really comes down to like who's paying me, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like that's really the difference. And some people have different deals, different arrangements. So then I have to sometimes go back to the artist and be like, okay, so if you're releasing with them, that's cool. This is what I offer through them, but you won't get XYZ, or vice versa. You will be getting now XYZ. So it really depends. I always say that, the earlier the better, no matter what, when approaching a publicist. So it's always good to be ahead of the game. I'd much rather be in a situation where like we're trying to figure something out rather than like them coming to me,
Right.
a month before it's due and it's just like, can't do anything.
Exactly. Now, Lydia, let me ask you, what does your early mean? Because me as an artist, like, and knowing other fellow artists,
Yeah.
what is early to you? Because 3 months could sound early to a jazz musician sometimes, or even like 6 months. Like, oh, that's plenty of time. But like, what really is like the best early to say, hey, like obviously you have your project ready, you're thinking about it, you're ready to start recording. Like, when would be the best time, or your suggestion and advice to any music artists out there? When is early? What's your early?
So we start working on our campaigns, like getting materials together and getting things going around 4 months before an album drops. And we start our campaigns about 3 months before. So that means you've got to be at least that part ahead. I now am telling people they should really be looking at 6 months.
Yeah.
And that's not even a long lead time, to be honest with you. Like I have colleagues that are, publicist colleagues that I know book out like a year in advance. And I get that. And it's starting to become that way.
Yeah.
I booked something for January 2022 today. I mean, it's really important to be early because first of all, we need to plan our schedule, but really it's just like the more time, the better that we have to do a project, the better the result. And it's just so funny because this week, I don't know like what went on cosmically this week, but like I don't know. Someone must have written something somewhere because I've gotten so many inquiries this week, which I'm like very grateful. And it's like amazing. I mean, I'm overwhelmed. My inbox makes me want to die, but so many of them are so soon. Like they're releasing like next month.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, oh, why? I'm like, and I feel bad because I can't even answer all these people, but it's just like, I really need time. And I don't know how. I need to like rent a billboard or something. I don't know.
So wait, ladies and gentlemen, if you're tuning in, you got to also think about, your publicists, your promoters. I mean, Lydia, you are a trailblazer. I mean, thank you for all the work that you put in. I mean, a lot of people don't realize behind the scenes, behind the computer, the late hours, the bags under our eyes, covering them with makeup so that so that we're ready to go. It's really all those human things that just happen, and I think that we as artists sometimes forget. We expect that, if I'm hiring somebody, they need to get it, done. Yes, but let's keep in mind of the organization that has to happen, right? The organization that needs to happen prior, the thinking things out, the writing things down, just first have the idea. And this kind of segues into tonight we're going to be showcasing 3 artists that you're currently working with and have been working with. And so the first artist is an emerging artist. But before we get into that, I just want to ask you, for new artists that are coming up and coming, starting their careers, emerging artists, what do you consider an emerging artist when they come to you?
It depends. I mean, I get everything from kids that just like graduated from Berkeley that are approaching me to, I mean, I've had, teenagers that their parents are writing me. I mean, we've had literally
Wow.
like emerge, like literally emerging, I mean, I've had
Literally.
like emerging. Yeah. So I've had quite a vast experience, but for me to like really consider an emerging artist, it's really important to me to give space to debuts and to give space to up and coming artists. That's why I started my business. And no matter how many Grammy winners or like whatever like end up on your roster, to me it's just like really important to make sure that those artists have the opportunity as well to have PR campaigns. So that's kind of, it's really important to me. Yeah. But that being said,
Yes.
the artist does have to be ready for it. And I'm not saying they have to be, extremely advanced in their career on their own, or that they've, have to be like these whiz kids, but they at least have to have like a well produced, really like professional recording, they're coming to me with, not something that they did, with their friends. And it's like, okay, we want to put it out, it has to be professional.
Yeah.
I want the artist, the artist has to be active, they have to be doing something. Now, obviously touring is not a thing. So live streams or whatever. I mean, just something that that has them out there, because when you're a new artist, there's so much groundwork we have to lay.
Yes.
So much. And so much work goes into introducing an artist. And a lot of the time that doesn't even translate to reviews and features everywhere, because they don't know who they are. So a lot of it is really raising awareness and making sure people know, who this person is. So the more opportunities we have that we can direct people toward, whether it be a live stream or a show or as a sideman, I'll use an example. Like I have been working with Chin Chin Liu, who's a phenomenal vibraphonist who is known for working with Jeremy Pelt.
Yeah.
Having that connection that she was on Jeremy's records and toured with him, I was able to kind of like point that to people that might not be familiar with her. And her album is a self-release, yet she did so well and she got so much press. I mean, not just because she's a great musician, I mean, that is why she got it, but because people are like, oh yeah, she plays with Jeremy Pelt, and so having that type of association is kind of usually enough for me. It just depends. But yeah, I mean, if you did just like graduate Berkeley and it's like your first time recording,
yeah, like if you're literally emerging, I mean, it's yeah.
I mean, if your parents are calling me like when you're emerging from the delivery room, which like believe me, there are stage parents out there that I have gotten the emails that have been like, hi, like my kid is going to be a star, and I'm like, I'm sure of it. Can you get me like when they have a driver's license? Call me.
It's like my son is born a maestro. Trust me, I'm a maestro. Yeah. It's gonna be a maestro, and you're like, wait a minute.
I mean, maybe. I mean, and I would love, like, that would be great. But yeah, it's really just about like having good preparation, and I just want to be able to see that, before I.
Yeah, definitely. And so let's go into the first song and artist. So this is our emerging artist that we're going to be featuring tonight from your production and from your business. And so give us a little insight on this artist and what we'll be listening tonight.
Yeah, so Jihye Lee is her name, and she is a band leader and composer from Korea, and she's phenomenal. She's releasing so this is her second album that's coming out on Friday, and it's coming out with Motema. So it's her Motema debut, but it's her second release, and it's called Daring Mind. And I think we're listening to Revived Mind, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I think that's the one I sent you, right?
Yes.
So, Jihye is wonderful. She was a pop singer.
Oh
wow! But she doesn't sing on this recording. But she was a pop singer, and then she came to the United States and she studied at Berkeley and MSM. And I am really pumped about this recording. It's first of all really beautiful, but the music, it's really different. Like when I was sent this project talking about lead time, I was approached a little bit a little bit later than my normal window, but I was so taken by the whole project that I was like, I need to do this. So this is coming out on Friday, and Jihye Lee is her name, and she is amazing.
Great. So let's check out Revived Mind by Jihye Lee. my
It's good, right?
God.
Yeah, it's so
It
good.
is so good. Just like hearing it, and I'm seeing everybody kind of, giving their support, but like what appropriate time. It reminds me of spring. It
Yeah,
reminds
totally.
me of this like new coming, and then just to hear like this contemporary sound of like the orchestration, but
Yeah.
also like her roots, right? Like where she comes from. You can tell like she's writing from her heart, yet also just,
Yeah.
I mean, it's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
thanks for playing the whole
awesome.
thing.
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
that's what we're here to do, is support the artists as well, and these are
Yeah.
platforms that are so important that we need to make sure people, sometimes we also just have to listen, it's just like, let's sit down and really listen to the song,
Yeah.
and so thanks for sharing that. I mean, we're kind of getting a sneak peek here since it's coming
Yeah.
out on Friday, but go out and support emerging musicians, such as these, and in really ways of, these are ways of how we can support right now, our artists.
Yeah.
And so, man, that was beautiful. Thank you for sharing
Thanks.
that. So,
Yeah.
all right, so let's move on. We have some more music that we'll be sharing next, but I do have a few other questions, and this is one of the big ones. What are some of the common misconceptions about a publicist and a promoter that you think, I mean, kind of like what people are thinking of, or what is your thought on, misconceptions for these publicists and promoters that artists are thinking about?
Well, there are two. Well, there's more than two. But there are
Probably
two
more.
things. One is really, yeah. So one is just incorrect and another is wrong. So
Great to bring that up. Yes.
the first one is, well, the first thing is this, and this is what's kind of hard to, a kind of a hard pill for people to swallow, and I get it. Nothing is guaranteed in publicity. So we cannot guarantee anything. We can do our best job, like the best work, and as well as we can to get the results that we all want. But it is not guaranteed. And anytime a publicist guarantees something, I would say that's a red flag in general, because it's not, because earned media and paid media are two different things. And yes, you can certainly, and advertising and marketing is also different from what a publicist does. So, if you want things to be guaranteed and you want there to be a sure shot to get XYZ, well, then that's advertising, or paying for advertorial, or it's not what a publicist does.
Right.
So the idea that you could hire a publicist conceivably and get absolutely nothing, that is true. Now, obviously, that's not something that we don't operate that way. I mean, we tend to get stuff for our clients, but that is a risk that you are taking, which leads people to be, well, why? Like, why then am I going to pay a publicist? Like, what am I paying for if I don't get anything? But it's like, well, so much of what we do is behind the scenes, and so much of what we're doing is laying groundwork, and so much of it is word of mouth, and just spreading news and spreading updates and making sure people know what's up. It does not always translate to multi-page features. So
Right.
that's something that is can be definitely a misconception, is that publicists are going to guarantee that we're going to turn you into a star overnight. That's like not how it works. I wish it did. It would make my job easier. But it's not. The other side of it too is, I do think that publicists do get kind of a bad rap in general. I think that we get a rep for being kind of annoying and like just sort of a drag.
Which is, let's rephrase. This is the wrong part information, like what people don't really realize.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, but also there are publicists that are terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, there are publicists that
Yeah.
suck. Like, I have had to rescue things from campaigns. I've also had people that have, I'm sure, walked away from, I mean, I don't know, I'm sure people have walked away working with us and been like, man, that was cool, but I wish I would have gotten XYZ. I mean, of course, like, that's normal.
Yeah.
But sometimes publicists have like a bad rap. And I try to be as not that as possible. But I think the main thing though really is like the misconception that when you hire a PR, that means that you will be getting, a Rolling Stone feature, and that's just like not realistically how it works.
Yeah, exactly.
So that would be some of them.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree. I mean, I think before, just like in my, just a little understanding of what that was like, why would I pay a publicist if I can do it on my own, right? And or why would I pay a publicist or to promote like stuff on social media when I can create my own one page and send it out?
Yeah.
But like what we said earlier, it's not only just about you and as an independent artist. I think it's the connections, the networks that publicists and these promoters have, such as yourself, and the reputation that you have built between your clients, right? The clients that you've worked with on the editorial side, on the promoting side, on the radio side. I mean, it's really all that, right? It's like this is your full-time job. And when you think about it, when artists are saying, "Hey, I'm going out there, I'm doing it all on my own," and then they don't get nothing, or they realize like, I spent this much money on putting this out on my own and being on an independent label, which is fine, what we said earlier, but then the outcome is sometimes also XYZ. It doesn't end up coming out to being what you expected because of, it only goes beyond family and friends, and only, past the likes on Facebook, past the, what you have, email addresses, past the touring. Like, it really goes beyond that. And I think that's something that we as artists have to come to an agreement with ourselves, understanding the process of what promoting and publicists really do.
Yeah. For sure.
And so how would you typically get started with an artist, like kind of on a step-by-step basis? What is the Lydia Liebman, production? What do you guys do with a step-by-step with an artist?
Yeah, I mean, well, the first part is, is getting the materials in order, because the thing that takes the most time is writing the press release and doing the one sheet and doing all of that. And we do pretty much everything in-house. So either I have like a stable of writers that I kind of rotate through that, I kind of like will give certain press releases to. I also have a great, content creator Dylan McCarthy, who I know you know.
Shout out to Dylan.
Shout out to Dylan, who's kind of like my in-house writer. So when he'll get the bulk of my stuff, or I will write it or whatever. But we like to create everything here, or I'll commission it to a writer, but I'll commission it to them after I've spent a lot of time with the project. And for reason I want to commission it to them, because maybe I think they can do a better job on it than I could for whatever reason. So it's really getting to know the project intimately first and foremost, so that like I'm able to have a discussion with you intelligently about it. Like like with Gile, for example, it's like I would like to be able to tell you about it, and not just like, oh yeah, it's this new artist who has a new project coming out.
Yeah.
I want to really know what we're dealing with. So I do spend a lot of time getting to know the project. Once we have written the press release, do a one sheet. Gile's I have here kind of looks like this. We will send this out with our promo CDs, which we'll be sending, and that is so that's the first thing. Sorry, press release, one sheet. Then we announce it to press, and we do announce it about 3 months ahead, 2 months ahead, sometimes depending on what it is. We announce it out, send it out digitally, and then I do send physical copies still in the mail to a select group of writers that need it.
So physical copies is still a thing.
Yeah.
In jazz.
In jazz.
Yeah.
In jazz.
Yeah.
In jazz. Yeah. Moving away, thankfully, but there are still, I still have like a pretty substantial list that I do send to for every recording, around somewhere between like 70 to 100 more or less. Yeah, so I do send those, prepare each package, pack them, send them out, come straight from here. And, once we kind of do our announcements and get the music out, it's really just about following up and staying on the case with our journalists and seeing what they want to cover. I think one of the things that's also kind of hard for artists to deal with sometimes, patience that's needed for this. This is not something that happens overnight. It happens, it's really a slow moving process. And it's like, even when we announce an album 3 months ahead, it doesn't matter. I mean, you're still going to end up getting, a lot of stuff once it's out. And that's something that, the timing on this is like, it's crazy. And especially in COVID, it takes a really long time for stuff to happen, because we have less people doing it, because a lot of people have been laid off and let go. So you're working with like one editor now instead of three.
Right.
And that is really hard. So yeah, it's really a multi-step process. But generally speaking though, the reason we like to start early is so that we can kind of like do things without rushing. But we're always rushing in the end anyway. When I'm done with you, I'm going to finish writing a press release. That's late. I mean, it's the way it goes.
Yeah. And I mean, and see, that's the thing where like, yes, artists can do it, but like the fact that you already know what you're doing, the fact that you're a pro at this, you're professional, you've been doing it, you know what is being expected from, you know, the labels or from the radio hosts or from the editors and people to review the albums. Like that's the importance of this, you know, and sometimes people, you know, I don't want to say everybody because a lot of people go to you and they have, you know, and you have an amazing roster of artists. But yeah, I mean, even just like anything, right? You want to prepare, you want to say, okay, I'm willing to spend the money to hire a promoter and a publicist because I don't have the time to do that. In reality, like it really makes sense in that end. At least for me, it does, you know, learning what I've learned now. You know, that really goes into something I wanted to ask you in regards to if an artist has already released something independently and they did it all themselves, everything like that. And then they say, you know what? I want to go now to a publicist, maybe a year later, 2 years. What is your take on that? Is that something that you can say, okay, perfect, like this is still an emerging artist, they've put stuff out there? Or is that something kind of like, well, maybe we should work on new material? What's your take on that?
Always new material. I used to, when I was first starting out, I would do what I would call pickup campaigns, where I would pick up projects that have already been released and, you know, not a year. I mean, I'm talking a couple months, and, you know, pick them up and try to see what we can get. The problem with that is, first of all, most people want to cover stuff that's new. So you come to them with an old project, they're going to be like, great, I have a stack of 100 new things I need to cover. So you're already like fighting against yourself. Secondly, the thing that gets complicated about that is sometimes they did some stuff on their own, or they had a publicist, maybe it didn't work out, who knows, but going back and having like re-up a campaign when there has been like groundwork already laid and we might not be aware of everything can be really hard for us to kind of like, it's not seamless. Like you can't really, I mean, of course you can like pass off communications to someone else, but it doesn't usually happen that fast. It's usually not that seamless. And if a publicist was on the project before and they're not anymore, usually something happened. So they're definitely the last person that's going to sit there and, you know, oh, yeah, I talked to so-and-so, you know, so that's, yeah. So for me, I also just don't have time anymore to do projects like that. Right. So for me, it's gotta be new. That being said, something that's been happening lately though, is I have had artists that have put stuff out independently and then gone to a label, and a label has re-released it. Which this just happened with, so Logan Richardson, for example, had released something with his own label last year. It was a digital release, and then Whirlwind Recordings picked it up to release as a vinyl LP and a CD this time around in March.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's called Afrofuturism. It's a great record. And, you know, with that kind of situation, it's cool because we're able to call it new, but it also is a little bit of a challenge because people can go online and see, wait, I see that it's up there already. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
So it can be a kind of a double-edged sword. But for me, it really has to be new. And the only instance where it won't be is like that, where a label is going to take something independent and put it out on their own a little bit later. That's kind of the only way we can swing it.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, that's great advice. It's great things to know. I do want to mention we have a question from Lori, and she's asking, I have a question for you, Lydia. What is the best advice you can offer an independent artist not with a label yet, as far as what they can do to protect themselves and their music regarding them becoming a business entity?
Protect themselves. I'm not sure. Okay, as to protect themselves, I'm not sure what's meant by that. I mean, I think I know what she's asking, but I'm not an expert to talk about it.
Right.
So I'm not sure. But I will say, as far as promoting, and I'm reading her question now. Sorry, that's why I'm looking down.
Yeah, no worries.
To protect themselves and music regarding them becoming a business entity. Yeah, that's actually a question probably better suited to someone who's maybe in the licensing or in the
The
business side
legal.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure myself. I will say though, as an independent artist, not with a label, I mean, there's so much you can do on your own as far as promoting and getting yourself out there. I mean, it's really important to lay the groundwork on your own first.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be done. I mean, doing stuff on social media, releasing stuff strategically, creating your own press release, like modeling it after someone and sending it out to some people, LLC, corporate. Okay, I see. There's a lot of things you can do. For what Lori is asking though, specifically about LLCs incorporating and stuff, I'm not an expert, so I won't say. But I mean, pretty much I would say you should be incorporated, like if you're a musician in general, just because to cover your ass. So
Yeah.
yes, incorporate yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all I
And I
can say
mean,
about that.
and that's also just going on to like BMI, ASCAP, getting, all that, that down and saying like everything
Yeah.
is on there, it's published, I'm not going to get, locked out or,
Yeah.
The bots aren't going to lock me out of when I put something out by myself.
Yeah, I mean, it's really important to get that stuff kind of in line and figured out. I'm not an expert, so I'm hesitant to talk about it, but
Right.
there are people that are like really tuned in on that stuff. One particularly is Tinku, if everybody knows Tinku, Mark Carey's wife. Her last name I will butcher, so I'm not going to say it and try. But Tinku is amazing and great, and she knows a lot about this. And she's someone who I often refer people to talk to. Gail Boyd is another one. I mean,
Yeah.
she's a lawyer, so
She's great.
she's a great resource. Yeah. So there's plenty of other resources for this that are better than me, but I will tell you that get your business stuff in line before you do anything. It's really important.
Yes, definitely. So let's move on to the next artist who we're labeling her as an established artist. So what does an established artist for you mean, and for maybe non-musicians out there and artists who may consider them established, but maybe they're not established due to the promotional side of how you're really viewing it?
Yeah, so Tana Alexa is who I selected for this, and Tana to me, well, she was nominated for a Grammy last week, so that makes her established.
Yes.
So that to me that makes her established, even though this is her second album. I mean, it's not like it's not like this is like her 20th record. I mean, this is her second recording. But the thing that I think puts Tana into that category besides the Grammy nomination is that she is really active, and she's in a lot of different groups. She's touring all the time with her own stuff, with Antonio Sanchez's
with her husband.
group. Yeah, and she really like has, for lack of a better phrase, her shit together. So, she is somebody who I would definitely say is an established artist who has figured out how to do it also independently. So Ona, that recording that was nominated for a Grammy, it was a self-release.
Wow.
Did it herself. Her first album did come out on a label, and she did this one on her own, which is very interesting, to kind of flip the usually what it is. Tana's a really good example of someone who figured it out because she really has her bases. She just really knows what's up. Like, she's really involved in all different aspects. She knows about the music business. And by the time I've been working with her for like a year and a half, and from like our very first meeting, it was really clear that she had a vision and knew what she wanted to do. And so I basically was able to kind of work along with her.
Yeah.
And then, she was nominated for a Grammy. She was on the cover of Downbeat. She really did exceptionally, incredibly well. And I'm so proud of her in that project. But she crossed over this year. Like, I would say that it was 2020 was the year that really made her into a really high, like the high caliber. And I hope that she is regarded in those, A-list circles when things come back in a book,
Yeah, she's wonderful. I mean, she's great. Yeah. And speaking on her, being informed and knowing what she's doing, we're going to be watching a music video of her with this song called, is it Ona or Anna?
Ona, yeah. Ona. So this video is phenomenal. This is a video, it came out beginning of January. We were able to get a premiere with Forbes for it, which was awesome. And it is the title track of her new record, or newer record, Ona, which was nominated for the Grammy. And for Women's Month, it's all about women's empowerment and stories of women. And this particular track features Rosa Vocal Group, Nicole Zaritis, Claudia Cunha, Sophia Ray, and Sarah Elizabeth
Ooh.
Charles. So, we've got great women on here, and the video is like full of fabulous women, and like it's just great.
All right, so that I'm already excited. So everybody turn up your volumes. We're gonna check out the full video of Tana Alexa, and this is called Ona.
So good.
Wow, that was amazing. I
So
mean,
good.
wow, first of all, what a great video for Women's History Month of
Yeah.
standing up for women equality and just the beauty of women.
So good.
Yeah, it's amazing. Oh, are we listening to something in here? I hear some audio. Do you hear some audio?
I don't hear any
Oh,
audio.
okay. I'm hearing something. Anyways, I'm just gonna keep going here because I think it might just be on our end. Anyways, yeah. So Tana Alexa, I mean, amazing. She's been very active right now and doing all her things with the with her album. So it's good to know what an established artist is doing. She was, like you said, recently on the Grammy Award. Well, she wasn't awarded, but she was nominated. If
She
am I
was,
correct?
and she was part of the opening like medley that they did for that premiere ceremony, which was really cool.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So my other question for you is, and I don't know, maybe this is, I'm trying to really get what this question would mean. What would be the number one reason most artists fail to succeed when doing, promotion and PR? And I think we kind of covered it a little bit based off of when you're just doing it by yourself versus using a publicist. But what is one thing you've seen, in just in general, that maybe one reason why artists maybe fail in the promotional and PR side of things? Or maybe not fail, maybe it's hard for them to succeed. Oh, I think
on doing it on by themselves, or
yeah, exactly.
oh no, did I lose you?
Are
Okay,
we
wait, can
kind
you hear
of
me? Am I good? Am I back?
having some little connectivity?
Sorry.
It's
Oh
okay.
gosh. Okay.
We see you, but
Is
it's
it
a
okay
little
now?
bit choppy.
Okay. Who is doing something in my building that's making us bad?
I know, right? Who is using internet right now? Stop, please.
Who's using the internet? Yeah, please stop.
Oh my God. No, I think we got you now.
Is it better? Okay.
Yeah, it's a little bit better.
All right. Hopefully it stays better. I will not move. Yeah, I'm like watching myself here trying to see. Okay. So to answer your question, you said you meant on their own, right?
Yeah, I know we covered it, a little bit, why we should hire a publicist, why it's important to hire one. But what has been one of the, number one reasons most artists do fail in succeeding in PR and promotion?
Yeah, I think it really comes down to, okay, the timing is everything, as I said before. I think if you have too short of a lead time, it's just impossible for things to get done because editors have long lead time schedules. So it's really important to really give yourself time. But I think the other thing about it, though, is persistence. And I think it's kind of similar to artists that book themselves. You can email a promoter 100 times and they don't answer you. A promoter like a booker. You can email a club owner and email the booker for a particular venue. I know thousands of times, and they might get back to you maybe after like the 1,001 time. And it's kind of the same with PR. I mean, it's really all about consistency and about being being persistent without being a pain in the ass, being being following up without getting aggressive or stocky. I mean, there's kind of like this like balance that you kind of have to figure out. So I think artists can get really discouraged when they get told no, or worse, they don't hear anything, and then they just stop. And that's something that you kind of just have to keep telling yourself, you've got to just like keep going. And I know it sounds cliche, just keep going and, don't stop, be determined, but you have to be, because that's, I think the biggest thing is giving up too fast and being like, oh, they didn't answer me, he's not interested. I mean, that might not be true, So I think that's a part of it, for sure.
That's a great point, Lydia. I think you're right.
That's a big one, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And so I guess what are maybe, what can artists specifically overcome during these like roadblocks or things that they need to think about? Do you have any suggestion or advice, just in general? Because I know there are like some specific action steps, right? Like that artists can take, before. And what are some of those suggestions that you would give artists now? Because it's different now. I mean, I know it'll probably still work the same, like approaching you, getting,
Mhm.
next year I want to have an album. Here's the project. I'm ready to go. Let's say they do have their shit together, but like, let's actually say, what are the action steps that they should be taking as artists to really say, I'm ready. Here it is. What are you expecting and what suggestions can you make for those artists?
Yeah, I think it just really comes down to having a plan. Sometimes I get artists that come to me and they're like, I don't really like, I have this new project. I don't really know what I want to do with it. Can you guide me through it? And it's yes, but I also don't have the time to do that, and also it's not my job to guide you through it. Like, it's not
Mm.
it's my job to help you with the PR and the promotion, but I can't help you with
That's the
distribution.
producer's work.
Yeah, exactly. And it really comes down to, like, it's not that I don't want to help you, it's that I don't have time, but also I'm not an expert in these things. It's like, I know what I'm good at, and I know that I'm good at PR and promotion. So that is like what you come to me for. But I do have artists that come to me and they're like, okay, like, I'm starting from scratch. I don't really know what to do. Can you tell me how to do this, or how do I do this part, or I need your advice, like, on, how do I, who should I get my CDs printed from? How do I do that? And it's like, I have no problem giving you names and advice, but
Yeah.
I can't sit there through your disc maker's order and coach you through how to do it, And believe it or not, like, these are things that come up quite a bit, and
Mm.
people approach me with, and I'm just like, like, it kind of will turn me off sometimes, because it looks like it's so much extra work, and it's like, man, I really want to work this project, but you really need to educate yourself with these other aspects of the music business before coming to me.
Right.
And so I think it's really important in the end for people to just really get familiar with what a publicist actually does, and to do the
Exactly.
research before they come to me, because a long ass email like this about these are all the things, like, I want to read it, but I have like 50 other emails like that I have to read too, from, that could be from editors that are trying to play stuff for a client. So
Right.
it really just comes down to, like, doing the research.
Right. And I
And
think I think
I
like
know.
you mentioned, and I know we had a question earlier from somebody Jaime Quintanar, and he was asking, pretty much what we covered at the beginning. So you might need to rewind when you watch this, because we did cover that. He was just saying, are publicists specific to a genre of music, or open to all types of style or artists? And I think we mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
It's really doing the research of your publicist and promoters, because they're really focused, some who are focused on the genre, some who are open to different genres. So really going and checking the roster. But then he said,
Yes.
how can artists shop for a publicist, and or will a publicist determine if the artist is a good match?
Well, I always do. I mean, I don't take anything unless I think it's a good match, because the last thing I want to do is say yes to something and give the impression that we can do something, and then once we actually work it, we're like, oh, like, this is not going to work. I mean, the work, like, I like lay in bed at night, freaking out about these things. So the
Yeah.
last thing I want to do is give myself more stress by taking on a project I know I'm not equipped for. So I'm always screening, and I'm always making sure that we're a good fit.
Yeah,
I will
definitely.
say, though, yeah, I will say, like, when it comes to shopping for a publicist, though, I mean, it is, again, it just really comes down to research. If you Google jazz publicist, like, there's not that many of us, like, you'll see, the rosters of that my colleagues and I
Mm-hmm.
have. And if you see artists that you kind of identify with, or artists whose careers you want to mimic, that makes sense to approach those publicists who do that. I think it also makes sense to look and see, like, what kind of coverage are they getting. For us, I pretty much put stuff on our website as we get it pretty consistently. A couple times a week I do a massive updates, and you can see, like,
Yeah,
who
I've
are we
seen
pitching
it.
to.
It's amazing.
Yeah, we do that. I know I do that, besides, like, wanting to give my artists an opportunity for their press to be seen, because, again, if someone writes a review for a journal that nobody subscribes to and no one can see, and it's under paywall, that doesn't help the artist.
Yeah.
So I want to do that so people can see it, but also to help prospective clients understand who we're dealing with. So you have to just, like, do the research, in
Exactly.
the end. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we got one more artist, and now we're going to the established legendary artist, iconic artist. And this makes them iconic and established. Why, Lydia?
Well, I selected Spanish Harlem Orchestra for this, and I did it because they're Grammy winners, so that makes
Woo!
them automatically legendary.
I remember when
But
they
also
won.
because
Congratulations. Yeah, I remember that.
the best. Yeah, it was like the best day ever. Oscar Hernandez, who's the head of SHO, is like such, I mean, he's OG. I mean, he is the man. He's
Yeah.
been on, I mean, I'm sure like if anybody watching had like their, could name, my internet's okay. Could name a recording or two, like a Latin jazz recording or salsa recording that they liked. I can guarantee you Oscar was part of it. So I definitely classify that as legendary. And they're just the best. Love them. They're great.
That's awesome. So like on our screen here we're going to be showing the album cover, and this is Spanish Harlem Orchestra, and the track is called Latin Perspective. And it's off the Latin Jazz Project that was released last year. Am I correct?
It was released last year, yes.
Okay.
So this one did not get a Grammy nomination or win. It
Got it.
But
should have.
This is their should have. But this is like their Latin jazz project where they had a lot of special guests. Like Kurt Elling did something.
Ooh.
Miguel Zenon. My dad was on it. Joe Locke, I think, is on this track.
Yeah.
So it was a really impressive album, and this is one of my favorite tracks from that record.
Oh my God! All right, so we're gonna listen to the audio of Latin Perspective by Spanish Harlem Orchestra. So let's take a listen. A gozar. Vaya. Woo.
So good.
Man, if you guys weren't like tapping or dancing, then you got to get some Latin perspective in there in you. Man, that's beautiful. I love it.
So
I mean,
good.
Spanish Harlem. Wow, Joe Locke. I mean,
I
all
know.
the
Yeah,
amazing
Sherlock and
artists.
Jeremy Bosch on flute, like just so good. Yeah, just
Beautiful,
so
beautiful.
good.
Oh my God, that's so awesome. So
Yeah.
I guess the last thing, and what just to, I mean, you've given us so much great inside advice. What are some additional resources that are available to help artists with the start of a project, or just even understanding what to do when approaching a promoter, a publicist, the labels? What are some resources that maybe you know about, or that you can share, or even just advice?
Yeah, the greatest resource are your colleagues and peers. I mean, I say that because so many artists are doing so many creative things, and they are really the best source of information. I'll say one thing about my own work. Like I never lobby for artists. I don't ever, there's plenty of artists I'd love to work with, but
Mm,
you won't see me, you know, hit up their DMs, looking to work with them. Like, cause that's just not, it's just not my style.
yeah.
So everything that I've gotten is from word of mouth, truly. I even don't even really do that much advertising. It's a little bit. It's mostly word of mouth, and it's because artists are talking to each other. So that
Mm-hmm.
is kind of goes with everything. It's really word of mouth. Like, ask your colleagues, ask your peers, ask your bandmates, your roommate, your classmates, what their experiences have been putting out music, because they are really a wealth of knowledge, because you really don't understand what it's like until you do it. So I always say that it's like your first album doing it on your own is where you're going to learn how to do everything. So you kind of just need to ask your friends what's up. And beyond that, though, in the end, it does, again, it really comes down to research. I'll say, when I first started my business, I didn't know anything about PR and publicity. I didn't know how to write a press release. I didn't know how to do anything. I literally just saw what other people did and copied it, until then I learned how to do it. So, it's really easy to go online and see what a press release looks like and try to like model your own after that.
Yeah.
It really just comes down to like taking the time to do the research, but really like talk to your friends and talk to your colleagues and ask them about their experiences, because that is how you'll find out what to do and what to do, what not to do, etc.
Oh my God. I mean, that's great advice. I mean, man, you'll probably you'll, besides the Jazz Exchange, you'll probably be hearing from my husband or myself one of these days, like, "Hey, Lydia, we got our
Yeah,
shit together.
of course.
We're ready for it,
Good.
you know?"
No, it's good. But that's what I love it, though. I
Yeah.
mean, this is the thing. I mean, I love that. I mean, something that's been really, I will say, like, this pandemic has sucked. I mean, it's been
Yeah.
terrible. The
Yeah.
past year has
Of
been
course.
horrible. And, we've all been like in our virtual bubbles by ourselves. And we haven't been able to hang and go to gigs and all that. But
I know.
the community though, that has kind of rallied online, and like the community of dealing with artists, and dealing with so many different people, has been what's been really like kind of keeping me going.
Yeah.
It's like it's made things good, and I've been really thankful for that. So I'm always looking to work with new people. I'm always looking to hear what else is coming up, and it's my joy. So I hope to hear from both of you guys.
Yeah, definitely. And everybody out there who is tuning in, I mean, please, I hope our conversation today really brought and shed some light on the music industry. And I think there's a lack of information and knowledge from artists and from just a general public, right? To really understand how this kind of works, to really know what you need to prepare for. And non-musicians, obviously you're not going to go to a publicist and you're not going to be doing this work, but it just shows you also, when artists are reaching out to you and asking for your support, it's because they have to cover all these bases. And that's why it's important to shed the light on what's going on in the music industry. And it's changing now. It's changing every day. And so, yes, we do have the advantage of having our social media, Facebook, website. Yes, that's a great platform. But, this is another reason why we're doing these exchange live sessions. We're giving, shedding light to the knowledge of, sometimes maybe, I guess, lack of a better word, is like, it's not being enough. It's not enough to know about the music industry. And unfortunately, most artists aren't informed about how that really works. And so this is why we asked Lydia to be on our show this evening. I mean, she, please go to her website. I mean, she's done so much. I also, you were recognized on the Forbes 30. I get it wrong. What is it? What was it? The magazine?
I don't know. It's something like
Forbes
some
30
list.
under 30 or something like, which
Yeah,
is like
whatever.
amazing because it just highlights your performance and your work and your reputation as a young, amazing publicist and promoter because of the passion and what you do. And it reflects on your work. And so
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. I mean, you inspire me and I hope
you.
I'm sure you inspire a lot more people. It's always good to put a face to you. I know we see you a lot on the promotional side of things, but
Always on the internet.
yeah. But I mean, and I know,
Outrageous.
I see you on Facebook and, Twitter and all
Crazy.
that stuff. So, it's always good to just keep the connection. Right now is when we need it the most, right? So
Yeah.
any last words, any last, anything that you want to mention before we leave?
No, just thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I mean, it's always a pleasure to be able to shed light on this stuff. I do think that, we mentioned how musicians don't know, and it's not for them, lack of them not like trying to know. I think it's just that there's not a lot of transparency sometimes on this side of the business. So anything, that I am able to do to just sort of like take the veil off of like this part of it, I'm most happy to. So I really welcome the opportunity to do this, and thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, and please, I mean, like I said earlier, thank you so much for all the insight, the advice, everybody here tuning in. I know got something off, today's conversation, writing things down, getting everything ready before they approach you. And again, thank you so much for everything. We appreciate your insight. And I hope to have you again soon. And
Anytime.
hopefully we'll get to see each other in person sooner than later.
Sooner than later. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone who tuned in.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Lydia. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. We'll see you all later. Bye-bye.
Nikad neće se dati. Ona se bori, 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 nikad neće se dati.
I am a woman, my roots reach into the ground. Man wants to keep me down, but my wolf pack won't allow. They call us nasty when we speak above the men who won't teach our girls their version of what they want is feminine. We must be better than just to be equal to. Even when we succeed, we don't get paid like you. Stop all your stereo